Good day, everyone. This is Eric Maxwell with Cleanslate Technology Group. I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of their day to join us here for another one of our installments, webinar installments in our long series line. This one we're going to cover ILMT. Really, it's subcapacity license reporting and what you need to know about ILMT. So if you're new to ILMT, beginner to it, if you're in the middle of upgrading to ILMT, this is also a good one for overall knowledge. Again, my name's Eric Maxwell. I'll also be joined by Bay Van Horn, who's going to talk to you about some of the architecture, also get into a little bit on implementation. We'll have a short demo from Anna Pullman, who will actually show you the ILMT console and show you it in action. So if you're familiar with it or not, it's a good refresher if you've seen it. If not, it will be pretty, I think, intuitive for everyone when you take a look at that. Some of the issues we're going to cover, give you some of an overview of Cleanslate, who we are, what we do. As I mentioned, Bay will talk around the architecture. We'll have also discussion on implementation and Anna in the demo, and then we'll close out with some of the deployment services that we can offer and help you with ILMT. So, who is Cleanslate Technology Group? Well, Cleanslate Technology Group is IBM Premier or Platinum Business Partner that provides dedicated practice groups focused on the delivery of IBM software solutions and professional services. Our organization is broken up into really two groups here. Our bread and butter and kind of what we originated on about 17 years ago when we were founded is this IBM software. Our only focus is IBM software, and last year we were IBM's third largest net new reseller in North America. We do carry over 75 IBM sales and technical certifications actually, and can sell the entire full stack of IBM software solutions. So bottom line, we do understand IBM's complex licensing metrics and models better than anyone, as it is our sole focus and what we've been doing, as I mentioned, for the last 17 years. Now, the second side of the house here at Cleanslate Technology Group, we do is the professional service or consulting services side. We do have a highly skilled IBM consulting practice that really expands across the majority of IBM software brand portfolio. So we do have a pretty robust consulting services group that has vast knowledge around many IBM solutions or software solutions that we sell. So implementations, trainings, really you name it, we're pretty versed on a lot of that. Of course, one of the cornerstones of our professional services side of the house is our dedicated asset management practice that again supports our software team, and which I think is important, we are recognized by IBM as the leader or go-to partner in IBM SAM or software asset management, focusing on the implementation, configuration, and ongoing managed services of your ILMT environment and your SAM services there. So kicking things off, audit readiness data. So according to IBM, 60% of customers have faced audits in the last 2 years. 31% have faced an audit one time. 29% have faced an audit even more, twice or more. So that's pretty telling. It's most customers we talk to have had an audit at some point in time, and being prepared and ready for that is really the key to avoiding any lengthy, drawn-out audit processes or any penalties associated with the audit. So as today's IT environment and infrastructure continue to increase in complexity, it is mission critical for organizations to maintain a strategy for managing their software assets and compliance. What are you doing to kind of protect yourself? And also on the flip side, what are you doing to make sure with your software asset management you're making the very best decisions, maximizing your return on investment, and purchasing what you need, and really hitting the mark on what purchasing versus what you're utilizing. So only 4.5% of organizations have actually achieved optimized software application management. So it's really a low number. Lots of improvement there can be done. And then 64% of organizations have varying degrees of tools reporting. Another 31% still work on an ad hoc basis. So I can't tell you the number of customers we talk to, and their software asset management strategy consists of many complex spreadsheets, everyone kind of compiling data to come up with what the group as a whole thinks might be accurate license position. So really helping to streamline that and working on a better strategy is really key in automating that process to really having the very best data. Organizations with no asset management tools or reporting have no insight or control over what software is deployed and how it's being used. This is going to result in obviously failed audits, as I mentioned, financial penalties, and of course increased complexities and costs, and really spend a lot more time when you actually want to retrieve that data. So in our experience, IBM completes a software license review or an audit every 2 to 3 years for each account. Typically, these are going to be around 12 to 18 months to complete. They are typically performed by one of two firms, KPMG or Deloitte, and they focus on entitlements. Auditors are going to focus heavily on your PBU and subcapacity licensing and ILMT. First thing they're going to do is come in, they're going to ask for 8 quarters of ILMT reports. If you can produce those, they're going to sift through that. If not, the fun starts to really begin, because then it's becomes a matter of establishing baselines and data to see where you stand with this with that software license review or audit. And as most know, if you've been through them, most settlements are going to end with the customer having to buy new licenses to address any license discrepancies or coverage gaps, or can include penalties for being under entitlement and deployment of ILMT. So it's usually going to result in a true up and a penalty on back maintenance on the solutions you're out of compliance on. So starting with the basics, IBM licensing model and benefits, and what we're going to focus on, because this is what the IBM license metric tool is going to track, is mainly going to be your PVU licensing or processor value unit. So a processor value unit is an IBM metric that is a unit of measure defined by IBM to determine software licensing costs based on a processor vendor, a brand, the type, model, number, and by the number of processors made available to the program. Processor is going to be defined as each core on a socket, and each software package has a price defined as a number of points of PVUs per core. A lot of these, what's valued at a PVU is determined by IBM based on the software solution you have, and they're going to tie it into the size of the server and the processing power to put a PVU value to each particular core running on the servers you're running on here. So some of the differences between full capacity versus subcapacity, and we'll give you some examples here. Full capacity is if you take a server, let's just take a 16 core server. Full capacity is essentially going to be running licensing, or not running the licensing, but paying for licensing on all 16 of those cores. You may not need that much though. You may only need 4 cores, and that's what subcapacity is. Subcapacity licensing is going to refer to the virtualization of capacity licensing according to the Passport Advantage licensing terms, which we'll get into, based on every virtual CPU rather than physical cores. And customers may license products based on PVUs available to software versus the total PVU count for a server. So the absolute number one reason customers are going to utilize subcapacity licensing is from a cost perspective. Obviously, it's going to be a lot cheaper on that same 16-core machine to license what you're actually using, 4 cores, versus the entire 16-core box. But IBM is going to require you to track that, and this is what we're going to talk about here today. So just some of the monetary benefits of a full cap versus sub-cap licensing model. If you take an exact same product that's popular out in the IBM world and IBM customer base, this is at WebSphere and Q. You take the same machine, the 16 Intel Xeon E5-400. Each core is going to be 100 PVU. If you license every single core on the left side with the full capacity model, you can see a level H entitled customer for that same licensing the full box is going to be paying $462,000 to license that. In contrast, if you take the subcap licensing model, utilize subcapacity licensing, you're going to take a look and see that licensing on that same machine for what you're actually using, your costs are going to drop significantly down to just under $58K. Again, IBM allows the utilization subcap, but they do require you to run the IBM license metric tool as a way to track your usage. So we obviously have covered the main benefits of subcapacity licensing with the lower cost. That's the big one. But there are some two other benefits to it, or the advanced capabilities where by utilizing subcap, it does allow an organization to lever any server virtualizations to more effectively consolidate infrastructure and reduce the overall TCO or total cost of ownership. And then it does allow a flexible licensing model where software licensing using advanced virtualization capabilities can share processor pools, micro-partitioning, virtual machines, and dynamic reallocation of resources. So a couple other, I would call them sub-benefits, the main one obviously being lower cost, which we covered on the previous slide. So mandatory license requirements, as I mentioned, obviously we showed you the benefits of licensing with subcapacity. It's a lower cost, and IBM will allow you to do that. But you will notice here, and this may look familiar if you've ever taken the time to read through your Passport Advantage agreement, but organizations are contractually obligated to uphold the defined rights and license agreements. So this is actually verbiage directly out of everyone's Passport Advantage agreement, section 1.14. Customer agrees to install and configure the most current version of ILMT, which we're at version 9X, currently, in accordance with the ILMT Information Center, within 90 days of the customer's first eligible subcapacity product deployment on an eligible virtualization environment, to enable customer to collect virtualization capacity data by eligible subcapacity product and generate audit reports in accordance with these subcapacity licensing terms. Reports must be prepared at least once per quarter. Failure to generate reports or provide reports to IBM will cause charging under full capacity for the total number of physical processor cores activated and available for the use of the server. So it's a lot of words there. What's that mean? Well, the main points are going to be this. Number one, if you are required to run the latest version of ILMT, powered by BigFix, that's available at the time. That's currently is version, I think it's maybe 9.2 for now. It's on BigFix. And number two, you are required to produce quarterly reporting. As I mentioned before, if there is a software license reviewer audit, the first thing the auditors are going to come in and do is ask for 8 quarters of reports, and they're going to see that. And if you can't produce it, they're going to take that, as we just showed you, that the example of the full capacity box versus subcap. Your starting point, if you're out of compliance on that, it's going to be the entire physical threshold of the particular server there. So key functions of ILMT that we'll go into a little bit here is the automatic capping features, configured PVU threshold to ensure that usage is not overcalculated. Software discovery. You're able to discover all of your PVU-based software on defined endpoints for reporting and planning. I'll also add in RVU. If you have RVU, Resource Value Unit, ILMT is going to help you track that as well. Hardware monitoring configuration changes. With the newest version of ILMT, you are able to track the key information regarding your hardware endpoints in order to understand your configuration and usage. It's going to help you make better decisions with the data that can be reported back with ILMT. And then ultimately, it's going to help you calculate your PVU per product. Your software PVU usage is going to be calculated per product line in order to provide accurate usage reports. So this is going to be your go-to tool and really can be used on a various number of ways beyond compliance, but to establish a licensed position for you to help you educate and make better buying decisions and return on investment on your software purchasing. Now I will turn it over to Bay Van Horn, who will talk to you a little bit more about some of the architecture with ILMT.
Good day, folks. So the ILMT version 9 is a multi-tiered architecture. I'm going to start with that number 2, the second tier. That is our BigFix server. ILMT version 9, unlike 7.5, runs on an infrastructure that can support multiple business functions. BigFix is a tool that's been around for quite some time. Those endpoints are intelligent endpoints. That's the level 3 there that can run a number of things. So on the infrastructure that you will be deploying for version 9 of ILMT, you could do patch management, Microsoft patching, AIX patching, heck, even application patching like WebSphere or MQ if you wanted to. You could do enforcement of security type things, so forth and so on. But anyway, all those other business functions are contained within the BigFix server. And that's why that level 2 exists. The endpoints themselves, the level 3, perform all of the detailed actions, which for ILMT means that hardware scanning, collection of information, that software inventory information that Eric was talking about in the prior slide. Agents report into the BigFix server, 3 goes to 2, 2 goes to 1. The BigFix server, base server, reports everything up to the ILMT reporting server. That's the one that creates all of your reports. Understand that IBM has been working with the ILMT tool for the better part of 15 years now. Version 9 has been out for about 4 years or so, and it is continually evolving. The original intent of IBM Audits metric tool was to report on the PVU-based software. Then we started reporting on the RVU-based software. We also now collect and report on things such as client device and install-based hardware within the most current versions of ILMT. The deployment options, you actually have essentially 2 primary options. One is an on-prem where you as a customer house the BigFix server, the ILMT server, and all the agents. However, we at Cleanslate are happy and capable of providing you a cloud solution for the BigFix and ILMT servers. We'll host those for you. Your agents would then connect via a relay there into a BigFix environment that we're housing. The advantage there, obviously, is that you don't have to maintain the ILMT and BigFix infrastructure on the server level. We'll continually do those updates, and conceivably, because of the nature of BigFix, we can update the BigFix endpoints if it works within your change control process. So on-prem, off-prem are both available. The last thing I will say on this, for those of you that are multinational, you can have a single BigFix server, unlike 4 or 5 years ago. You can have a single BigFix server covering the worldwide and still report at a sub-enterprise, at a geo level, or a departmental, or an enterprise level. The deployment or the ILMT project looks something like what you see on the screen here. 4 basic steps, 3 for essentially the deployment, and then the ongoing maintenance. Think of this to be successful like any other major project. Do not think of this as an irritating little thing that IBM's forcing you to do and it becomes a side project, a boutique project. Since this has a wide scope, every server that's running IBM software, conceivably even desktops, you do want to treat this as a large-scale project. And that begins with planning. Now, the planning of an ILMT project is fairly straightforward, but coming out of the planning will be the provision of hardware to handle those servers, the BigFix server, the ILMT server, databases if they're on separate platforms. You're going to have network considerations, security considerations, identifying users, possibly even identifying owners of the various software that's being inventoried. Once you've done your planning, you've done your provisioning, you're ready, you're going to start installing things. You'll start by installing the BigFix server and the ILMT server after that. We're very proficient at that, and that takes anywhere from 3 to 6 hours to get through that. On the other hand, to be fair, if you don't do this for a living, you can stumble through this and it might take you 4 or 5 days. Once the servers are installed, then you're going to push out the agents. Once the agents are installed, then we get into a configuration process. Via the big fix server, we tell the agents what need to be done. And that's those last 4 bullets. Get the catalog updated, configure the scans, the data imports. We have a term called bundling here, and that's essentially the concept of accounting for the free licenses. WebSphere is part of Portal. WebSphere in a clustered environment when running a failover, you don't pay for the secondary nodes. All of that is part of the configuration. Bring in part numbers so that you can do some type of variance reporting. We'll get into that a little bit more between the collected inventory and your entitlement information. So now you've got the tool deployed, you've done your initial scanning, you've done the bundling, normalization of data and the like. You need to do some validation. And by that, we're talking primarily, have I got things mapped properly within the tool? Have I accounted for those free licenses? I'm going to bounce that against my entitlement data to come up with essentially a license position, a consumption position. And from the consumption position, then I can get to a licensing position. Folks, that gets you to a baseline. Your environment is changing. It's always changing. You're adding servers, adding VMs, decommissioning, adding, removing applications. So there is an ongoing maintenance mode and everything that entails. Mostly what that does mean is IBM publishes a catalog on a monthly basis. You'll want to bring that in monthly or quarterly. What the catalog contains are the signatures that drive the discovery, so that when WebSphere 11.0 comes out, it's not in today's catalog, but it will be in a catalog sometime down the road, and when you deploy it, you'll need a catalog import to discover that. Again, that occurs on a monthly basis, conceivably. As you deploy new software, that's going to drive new inventory discovery, and that whole bundling thing and the whole recalculation of reports and revalidation is something that should be occurring on a monthly, if not a quarterly basis. Eric mentioned this as a part of what ILMT is good for. When you come down to that end of year and you're trying to do your renewal process with IBM, do you want to work from a basis of knowledge so that you're working on factual renewals, or do you want to run that risk of having to buy that 10%, 20% buffer overspending? On the software deployment, again, once we've deployed or installed the server, the agents, this is just a little bit more detail on what occurs. The big fix server has what we call content. These are these scripts, commands, whatever, that get pushed down from the big fix server down to the endpoints. Part of that is we have something called a PVU table. That's the rating table that says this make model processor has this kind of cost capacity. I've already talked about the catalog. The scans are part of that content, so we have to apply the content. Part of the content that we apply are the scan configurations. IBM requires that hardware scanning, which is a NIT, doesn't take anything, run every 30 minutes, but you as a customer determine how frequently you want to run the software scan. And folks, that is because, frankly, the software scan is the part of software inventory, whether it's ILMT or any other product, that can consume resources. You have the control over when these run. Does it run on a weekend between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m.? Does it run nightly? Do you run these every 7 days, every 15 days? Part of that is dictated by the velocity of change in your environment. Bundling. I've talked about this briefly. A whole separate webinar could be spent on the art or science or magic of bundling. But in essence, again, bundling is that concept of ensuring that the software that gets installed is being counted properly, and more importantly, software that is packaged with something else, i.e., WebSphere Portal Server includes a WebSphere Application Server Foundation. That WebSphere Application Server, when installed to support Portal, is free. That's bundling. Bundling is tying that WebSphere to that portal. Or, conceivably, you've installed something like Oracle Financials, Lawson Financials, something like that, that may also have a WebSphere foundation. The Oracle or Lawson may be covering that license. Again, you don't need to pay for it. It's going to get discovered, but how do you indicate to ILMT that this instance of software should not be paid for, that it is free? There are a couple of different views of how to do bundling, and you might actually use both. A top-down approach is I'm looking at a product, I take the product and I essentially say, I know that things tied to this product, if I see this type of software, it should all be tied to this product. And that would be fine for things like data center type products, storage backup products, monitoring products, maybe even some security products. So every time I see a Tivoli monitoring agent, I know that it is part of a specific Tivoli monitoring license. Every time I see Tivoli Storage Manager, it's part of a Tivoli Storage Manager Extended Edition license or something like that. So for those broad-based, installed on every server type of things, a top-down approach might work fairly well. On the other hand, there are going to be those middleware or application layered products, the WebSpheres, the DB2s, the InfoSphere brand, a whole lot of things that do not exist on every server. They are unique server by server. There are a number of different potential component installs, and at that point in time, you may have to go and look at things from potentially an agent or an application level, which entails possibly getting an application architect, a systems architect, somebody involved who knows a little bit about what was installed or can do the research. So that's a bottom-up approach. I'm looking at a host. I'm looking what's installed on that host, co-located, to come up with what was the intent of the install. And part and parcel of that, did the install of a product throw in some garbage artifacts? Out of ILMT, Eric was talking about these 8 quarterly reports. These are the sets of, this is the snapshot of data that comes out of these quarterly reports. On the left side, you see the reporting elements. Essentially, what you're getting out of here is product level consumption information and physical server level consumption information. Eric was talking about the concept of capping. One of the paradigms over the past decade, 2 decades, has been going from a physical environment to a virtualized environment. The concept of taking 4 MQ physical servers, putting them on one physical server with 4 VMs running MQ. Bundling is, again, that concept of oversubscribing, over-allocating virtual cores against the physical capacity. ILMT does all those calculations for you. But the calculations, the capping is done at the physical server level. So you get to see what the consumption was at a product level. How did we arrive at that from the physical server level? And equally important, what VMs and where on those VMs, the installation path, were the installs discovered from. There's a whole list of files that come over here. The other key one that I'll talk to would be, or the two would be the audit trail CSV. That's what tells you who did what to affect the bundling, the exclusions, anything that might affect your licensing, and the bundling definitions. That will let you see that on this host, this piece of software is being covered by this entitlement. Cleanslate Technologies, when engaged with a customer to assist with your ILMT deployment, takes it to a natural conclusion. ILMT itself does not have any place for entitlement information. ILMT gives you deployment information. Well, the next step, and in the case of ILMT, it's an external step, is to take your entitlement information, plug in the deployment information coming from ILMT so that you can get a variance report. That's essentially what you see here. If you stop with ILMT, you've got some really great information, but you still are at a point of not understanding or recognizing whether you're over, you're under, where your risks are. So when you engage Cleanslate, we take that ILMT data and go a step further to get to a licensing position report. We'll go a step further than that. Do not see it here, but when it comes to license optimization, that type of thing, what servers have you fully maxed out? In other words, if I have oversubscribed a server with DB2, any more DB2 I throw on that physical server is essentially free. So we will make those types of insights as we talk about this final reporting. Now, you've got this tool installed. What's your steady state process? Well, you have some maintenance. We've talked about that. We've talked about the catalog import that occurs on a monthly basis. There's patching to the product. One of the recent evolutions of the product was to begin to report on install and client device licenses. There will be continual evolvement with the ILMT product. IBM's direction is to eventually use ILMT to report not just on subcapacity, but on other products. So there will be continually evolution to the product. Patching comes out typically about once every 6 to 8 weeks. You should do a periodic review of your software inventory. You don't have a static environment. If you don't have a static environment, things continually change. You need to keep on top of that so that you continually work from a basis of factual knowledge. As things change, as new inventory comes in, you have continual bundling. Now, folks, I'm not suggesting this is a daily activity. It might be a weekly, every 2 weeks, but probably no more than a monthly activity to reconcile the new inventory that comes in. And I say no more than monthly because if you are the contracts person, you probably don't know product packaging. You don't know why things were installed. The closer you reconcile your data to the install date, the easier it's going to be to find the person that did that install, and while it's fresh in their mind, find out what they intended to do. And finally, the culmination of all this is reporting. You want to generate reports periodically to make sure that, again, you know your deployment or consumption position. Now we're going to go over to a demo provided by Anna Pullman from Cleanslate Technologies. You will see a live version of the tool.
Okay, Bay, thank you. Welcome, everyone. My name, again, is Anna Pullman. I am a technical associate consultant here at Cleanslate, and I am tasked with the installation, deployment, and MSO management of the BigFix and ILMT products for our customers. As Bay discussed, the BigFix architecture, I just want to give you kind of an idea what the BigFix administration console looks like, and also the ILMT administration console. This is a very small environment, so I won't spend a whole lot of time on BigFix because there's a lot that can be applied here. But once you get into BigFix management in the console is a fat client that does get installed onto your workstation, and you can use your LDAP authentication along with that if you so desire. But once you get into BigFix, there is a module for the license reporting that can be enabled, allowing you to download, install, and configure the ILMT component. Once that's installed, there are already pre-canned fixlets and tasks waiting for you to be able to configure your software scans, your capacity scans on your systems, and do the proper reporting for ILMT to be able to pull that content in. The machines that are available here are the ones that the BigFix agent has been installed on. So you'll install the BigFix agent solely on those systems that require PVU license reporting. Once those agents are installed, you'll be able to see them, manage them, and then run these tasks against them. So there are several tasks here. I'll just kind of walk through this a little bit. That also allows you to not only initiate those scans and run those scans, but troubleshoot them as well. So they have a lot of pre-canned content here that you can utilize to do that proper reporting. Once these tasks are ran against those systems, then that data is imported into the Big Fix databases, and then later you're able to import that content into ILMT to run the appropriate reporting and calculations that ILMT does for you to create your audit report. When we go over to the ILMT administration console, this is where the magic happens for your license reporting. The first part of logging into ILMT is you're able to see the dashboard. The dashboard gives you an idea of what's going on, the health and content, to assure that your reporting is going to be done properly. It provides a quick outlook of your deployment health if the systems are not reporting properly or they are low on disk space, missing some prerequisites. The scan health is allowing you to see which scans are failing on what systems, if they're missing their upload. And there's a software catalog that does get updated once a month. And if that catalog is out of date, that could skew your reporting. So it allows you to see which catalogs may be out of date on which systems. But as you can see, there's a bar here in this particular widget. That would mean that that's something you need to address. If you do not see bars in that widget, that means things are probably running okay. So once you see something, it's usually you can click on that particular item, learn a little bit more about that system, and then you can divulge a little bit more time and effort into maybe what's going on with that particular entry. The last widget here on the top is about the virtual managers. There's also the necessity of connecting your ILMT environment into your virtual hosts, your vCenters, your Hyper-Vs. It creates a connectivity, pulls read-only type information from those systems to allow you to get the right capacity calculations, again, to do your license reporting. If you have bars here, these are a little bit more important to really dive into and invest some time in figuring out what's going on here. These are configurable by going up into the management section and going over here to VM managers. Here's where you would create those connections to your vCenters or Hyper-Vs, even your KVMs. Allows you to create those connections. Again, it's a read-only connection. It goes out and captures that information, pulls it back, and again, does the right calculations to do your audit reporting. The remaining three widgets are really all about what content and information is being captured, which software components are being identified in those software scans. A lot of your time will be spent here in the bundling section, especially at first. It'll take some knowledge of your, maybe your system administrators, your business people, your software asset managers to kind of divulge and go walk through these. I know a little bit about your licensing, know a little bit how it's deployed. ILMT does a really good job at identifying what packages and software components are on there, but it really kind of relies on you to determine which components really need to be worked together or combined together. For example, if you buy WebSphere and it comes with the component of DB2, you may need to bundle those products together to be under one license. This will only identify that those components exist on that system. So a lot of time is spent here. A lot of times at Cleanslate, we typically say that this might take longer than the actual technical implementation, depending on how many components and systems you might have. You do want to get this right. This is the part that you do really want to make sure that your audit report is reflected properly. Once you're done with this bundling, you're able to do the reports and pull an initial audit report. You do want to look at this again. You do want to evaluate, see what it looks like, run that snapshot, and make sure it's accurate, and just validate the system before you store it and save it for yourself. This usually requires to be run once a quarter and then saved off for IBM to look at on if they request it. So the last little piece I kind of want to cover here, I mentioned that in Big Fix, the Big Fix tasks go out and run several tasks and store that content, that software scan data into its database. And then we import that into ILMT. Here's the section where that magic happens, and it pulls that content into ILMT to run through its calculations. And then there's also the ability to then out from here import your software catalog. And I kind of want to run that home a little bit. Just want to make sure that users know, or our customers know, that this system is not a configure once and leave, let it run kind of system. A lot of our technologies are changing, your environment's changing and evolving, and want to make sure that this software catalog is up to date, that your PBU tables are up to date, and that's just to assure that you're going to get the most accurate reporting possible for your audit report. So I'll kind of leave it there. I'll let Eric kind of continue on with our webinar. If you guys have any questions, feel free to tap into us, and hopefully we'll be talking to you later. Have a good day.
All right, great. Thank you, Anna. Good stuff there, and thank you, Bay, for taking us through the architecture and the other material. Here at Cleanslate Technology Group, I did want to touch on some of our managed services offerings. And it's really a two-pronged approach. And taking you through this is, as Bay took you through some of the steps of implementing the tool, establishing the baseline. We do all that and help customers get through that process there as a leader for SAM, Software Asset Management with IBM. But we find that the ongoing managed service is something about 80% of our customers usually engage with us on. Really for on an ongoing basis there for, and renew year after year. And there's a two-pronged approach to that. There's software asset management, and then there's the platform management. So you have your baseline, and it's been established, the tool's up and running. What now? Well, oftentimes we find if we don't take care of this part of these steps, if it gets turned completely over to a customer, there's just not the time and knowledge base to manage this ongoing and give it the proper and the necessary, attention that is needed. So our proposed managed service offering, as I mentioned here, is the two-prong approach. You have your software asset management. That's where we're going to, any type of software rationalization services we can help with to mitigate any compliance risk and maximize ROI. So we're going to ensure you're compliant, in accordance with Section 1.14 of your passport agreement that we discussed towards the beginning of this webinar. But also make sure you're maximizing your return on investment. We want to make sure that you're making, right buying decisions. If your anniversary date's coming upon you and you're trying to get necessary data to know what to renew, we can help you do that, and we can help you show what your actual utilization has been to help you make an educated decision there moving forward. With this managed service, we can also help report and validate any new server installations. You stand up new hardware, you make any new purchases, new software purchases. We will roll all these into that established baseline, account for all these, and really update that report in real time and make sure we're accounting for any changes to the established baseline environment. We will help maintain your updated PVU table and part numbers list. You'll notice that changes frequently. Knowing when that changes and what's that effect going to be on your environment, that becomes our job. It's an ever-changing environment with IBM. They change their metrics, they change their part numbers list. If you're not keeping up with it every day, or it's not what you do every day, as it is here at Cleanslate Technology Group, it'd be an issue to stay on top of. So we can certainly work through that as well and help you maintain the updated PDU table and part numbers list. Obviously, we want to maintain the updated automated bundling efforts. We talked about initially, if you don't have a SAM strategy in place, there's a lot of manual work, there's a lot of spreadsheets. Once we establish an automated process with ILMT and the reporting and the baseline, we want to maintain that and make sure the bundling of any new software, your existing software, any changes to your hardware are all in accordance there and all working in unison to provide accurate numbers we can compare with your entitlements, your entitlement data. We're going to perform and validate periodic audit reports. Obviously, you're going to be required, as I pointed out in section 1.14, to report quarterly. We want to at least meet that measurement and have you compliant with IBM with that reporting. But we can also perform and validate audit checks, make sure their environment's working well. We can also review reports with the internal asset managers and file any file per IBM compliance parameters. So work with the different business units. What software are they using? Bring everything together and work in harmony. And then we can certainly help you manage the IBM relationship in order to rectify any software entitlement discrepancies and reduce the chance of audit. So, if you come on your renewal and you say, hey guys, thanks for, you see that maybe you're paying for more than you're using and you want to drop that down, we can certainly work with the IBM team to do that on your next renewal. If there's the flip side and you go, wait a minute, I'm over deployed here, I need to purchase new, we can certainly do that. We can certainly help you with that and get you the best pricing possible on any new software purchases. The second part is the platform management. It's the day-to-day, it's a steady state of the ILMT environment. We will definitely help you as part of our managed service offering with any big fix and ILMT full lifecycle deployment. Any planning, install, configuration, reporting obviously is going to be included in that. Any patches or updates to ILMT, the ILMT console will help you with that as well. And of course, any ongoing quarterly maintenance of the ILMT and big fix platforms will do that. And then of course you have on-call operational support of ILMT platform with our managed service offering that we offer. Some other things we can touch on here that are probably the most popular. If you're in the process of ILMT, if you're trying to stand it up, or you're trying to do any migrations from TAT4D or the version 7 ILMT, we do have a quick start. We essentially stand up the console for you. We take a handful of agents, a handful of products, kind of show you how to make those work in unison. We can certainly do that if you want to take it over from there. And we'll give you some knowledge transfer at the same time. If you have your ILMT environment currently in place and you say, I don't know if I'm not 100% confident the data is reporting accurately. I also don't know if we've done everything correctly. Could you put a second pair of eyes on it, give us a health check, take a look at our deployment. Any fine tuning can be done. We can certainly do that and make some recommendations moving forward with the environment. Number 3 is the bundling. They talked about that. We can have a separate webinar in itself on the bundling and reporting. IBM has a lot of complex software bundling packages. Knowing and keeping on top of what's packaged with what and what that goes to on your entitlements and knowing what to exclude it's really the art, science, and magic as Bay described it. It really is. So we can certainly give you a crash course on that. Validating your baseline audit report, provide knowledge transfer at the same time. That's definitely a popular option a lot of customers need help with. And obviously we just covered the managed service offering. That's the platform management. That's the quarterly reporting. That's really the meat and potatoes of an ongoing effective SAM strategy is using what you have coming back. Obviously you have to do it from a compliance perspective, doing the reporting, but the flip side and silver lining is you can also use that to make very informed business decisions on software purchases or scale back some particular software. So we can do really any of these or more a la carte. We also have on the bottom left-hand side some SAM services. We do the pillar of polls, full package deployment, steady state planning, any license compliance assessments we can help with, future state planning and recommendations. And of course, if you're new to SAM and want to help with some SAM strategy and governance, modeling and execution, we can certainly work with you and establish that within your organization. So mandatory license requirements, what's effective software asset management strategy? We've talked a lot about the ROI, return on investment, what you're purchasing. We've talked about your license position already, is knowing where you stand, knowing what to renew or purchase moving forward, or not purchase or renew moving forward on your anniversary or throughout the course of the year or wherever you are with your IBM contract. That's the license position. It's just good practice for software management, managing your software purchases throughout the entire life cycle. Acquisition, deployment, maintenance, usage control, and proper disposal. Those are things that you want to hit every step because it can affect your reporting in the end. Oftentimes we talk to a lot of customers where we'll go in and they haven't properly disposed a sunset solution that they're no longer using or migrated away from, or maybe they've gone IBM they've gone away from IBM for that particular solution, but it's still reporting. Knowing how to dispose of that properly is going to be key to getting the most accurate data reporting possible. And automation is key. We talked about, that's a nice part about ILMT here. I mean, it can really give you an automated report to make these informed buying decisions. You're not working off, 6 business units and 5 spreadsheets and trying to merge it all and sift through the data and establish what it means. So these are really the keys, the 5 keys that what is an effective SAM strategy that Cleanslate Technology Group recommends. So giving you the complete SAM solution offering, there's really a 5-step process here. Number 1, number 2 really play into the same, category here. So subcapacity evaluation, we talked about that. We talked about the benefits of identifying the savings by going subcap versus full cap. The ILMT deployment, you're utilizing subcap, but you're also having the audit readiness with your subcap licensing. You're utilizing and leveraging subcapacity, but knowing what's running and being compliant with IBM and tying that all together is absolutely going to be key to a complete SAM offering here. And then, of course, automating your software discovery, eliminating those spreadsheets, having a console you're working off of to make those decisions. Step 3 is your managed service. Not just saying, okay, we got ILMT up and running. Managing that ongoing, utilizing that tool, or either doing it in-house or engaging with Cleanslate Technology Group to do so, and that's the active managed quarterly audit reports, the continued compliance, the steady state of the environment, the patches and updates of the ILMT environment. Beyond that is your overall SAM program. So once you've established the subcap and managing that, getting ILMT deployed, and then managing their ongoing. Well, what else? Well, you probably have other products within your IBM environment that are non-PVU, non-RVU, that are not tracked by, actually not tracked by ILMT, and those are your those are more like your authorized users, the stuff that's non-server-based licenses, capacity-based licensing there, your non-PVU and RVU still within the IBM umbrella. How do you manage those? We have a separate webinar that actually covers ILMT's big brother, which is called Big Fix Inventory. And it can cover your PVU, your non-PVU, and really cover even beyond IBM, which leads us into step 5. It's your SAM execution. That's your full software lifecycle management. So beyond ILMT and your subcap stuff, beyond even your non-PVU, is use the rest of your portfolio, your other publishers, Microsoft, Oracle, Adobe. How are you tracking those to have a full bore SAM strategy and execution in place? We can certainly help you with all that, but these are kind of our five-step process to a complete SAM solution offering. As I mentioned, and Bay did, IBM BigFix, or IBM ILMT version 9 is powered by BigFix. It's a great tool. We talked just more on compliance and audit readiness here, but as I just mentioned on the previous page, there's a lot of other cool features it can do. BigFix Inventory is a module within BigFix. The nice part is, if you already have ILMT in place, you already have the BigFix infrastructure in place, then you already have the foundation and infrastructure in place for BigFix Inventory. It's a matter of looking towards there's a license purchase and some configuration that needs to be done, and then you can take your ILMT environment into BigFix Inventory, and you can track your non-PVU, you can track your even non-IBM, as I mentioned. So really in capturing your entire data, entire software management across the entire organization, IBM and beyond, is key. There's also stuff for third-party patching. How are you doing your patch management every daily or weekly, or how are you establishing that? There's security compliance. The cool thing about this tool is, and BigFix in general, is you really merging several business units here under one umbrella with BigFix. You're merging your IT operations, your IT security, and there's several cool other modules that you can do that really provide a lot more capabilities than just ILMT. So it's definitely an upgrade. If you've had version 7 in the past of ILMT, it did one thing. This can really help you expand your environment and get more out of just compliance and reporting there. All right, so I do want to give you also a customer example as we were talking about some of the other benefits with BigFix once you have ILMT installed. We did have a mid-sized retailer who was a longtime customer of ours, roughly 11,000 endpoints. We became engaged with them because they were wanting to upgrade their ILMT environment to stay in compliance to BigFix. What we did is we went in initially, Cleanslate deployed ILMT version 9, including the BigFix infrastructure. And we wanted to really focus on their existing patch strategy. Working with them over the years, we noticed that this particular customer was using 6 patch tools across 5 different teams. So they often found themselves exposed by an ineffective decentralized strategy. Similar to what I was mentioning earlier in the presentation, those non-automated, a lot of spreadsheets, a lot of time being consumed, migrating everything and coming up with a best guess license position, so to speak. So by leveraging ILMT version 9, we got them upgraded. Since the BigFix infrastructure, as I mentioned, was in place with ILMT version 9, we deployed agents in the environment and turned on the lifecycle management module. Because of this, we actually invoked a brand new patch strategy with BigFix lifecycle management. We replaced 6 tools with 1 and consolidated their 5 teams to 1. This customer now, they deploy patches for Windows, Mac, Unix, and Linux, all from one console. So what started as just being compliant and upgrading to ILMT version 9, we actually used the existing infrastructure and architecture we had already put in place, deployed some other agents. They did have to purchase the software licensing, but they were actually able to utilize that into another area of their business to really improve and automate all of that. So there are some other added benefits with BigFix that they now have beyond just the patch, but they also have the benefit of some asset discovery, some inventory management, software distribution, OS deployment, and remote control desktop, all through BigFix, all through the same console we helped deploy ILMT version 9 with. I do want to offer for those taking the time out to join us here today, I did want to offer an audit readiness, kind of a health assessment of where you are to be ready for a software license review or audit. And it's a free subcapacity evaluation offering. If you're already utilizing subcapacity, great. Let us come in and see if you can be more efficient with that. If you're not, we can certainly show you areas of potential savings by leveraging subcapacity licensing. We'll also help you identify areas of potential exposure to an audit or review. If you're not sure where you stand, you're like, well, I don't want to get audited, or if I am, I want to make sure I'm prepared. We can certainly help you do that. Quantify any gaps in your license exposure. So if we find that, yeah, you are a little bit over deployed here, on the flip side, no, you're not. You're actually paying for more than you're actually using. We can certainly help you with any gaps there either way. And then with all this, you'll receive a comprehensive, really a findings and recommendations document or strategy to address any opportunities to cut your costs and address any gaps and address ILMT requirements. So I'm offering that as a non-billable engagement with Cleanslate Technology Group just for taking the time to join us here today. So there are some additional resources, and I will provide the deck after after this webinar concludes. So we'll send this out. But there are some resources out there on ILMT. There's a blog, a wiki, a pub site base, and an install roadmap. We've provided links here. They'll be within the deck that we provide. I do want to thank everyone again for taking the time to join us for another one of our ILMT or webinars in general. Feel free to check our website again, www.cleanslatetg.com. There will be monthly webinars posted, so feel free to join us for another one. We thank you again for your time, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.